Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Titan Consulting Podcast. Today, we've got three people joining me, Josh, Kendall, and Rashika. They actually represent three different team members from our Siemens delivery team. We just got back from Realize Live in Detroit. It's Siemens' big technology conference that they hold every year. If anyone's ever been or interested in going and wanting to learn more about it, it's a great opportunity to learn about all the offerings that Siemens has, and a lot from our clients about how they interact with the Siemens portfolio. So today, Rashika's with us. She's one of our senior Mendix developers. Kendall works a lot on Mendix delivery as well, and she's also one of our pre-sales engineers. And then Josh, while he does Mendix development, he's also one of our leads on the AI Studio side, one of the newer products with Siemens that Titan's been working with over the past year. So today, thought we'd get everybody together, give you a little bit of an overview of what their thoughts were and what they learned while they were in Detroit. So Kendall, I'll have first question for you. While all three of you are up there as practitioners and not managers, you guys got to attend quite a bit. As a developer, how did you feel that the conference, what did you learn there? What was kind of the most interesting thing that you saw as it pertains to you when it comes to the platforms that you work with?
I mean, as a Mendix developer, obviously, my goal was to go there and learn things about Mendix that maybe I didn't know. But I think the most surprising aspect of it was just discovering the value of talking to other guests who, were there, that work with other, with different Siemens products all together, just kind of putting us all under the same roof together and allowing us to share. I think one of the most interesting conversations that I had was actually at lunch. They had the big tables where, you're going to end up sitting next to somebody new each time. And I spoke with someone who works with Mendix, which is another Siemens product that is kind of an R&D platform for scientific data. And we just kind of started sharing what we do. And, I started asking him a lot of questions, not just because I have a background in science and love the research side. That was certainly part of it. But I also got to, immediately start thinking about how I could use Mendix with something like Mendix, and have those things work together to solve problems in industries that maybe we don't typically serve today. I mean, the overall vibe was pretty interactive. I think the most successful sessions were those that allowed the attendees to work, hands-on or otherwise be involved in the session. But honestly, like I said, the most value that I got were those lunchtime conversations with the other attendees. Get a chance to share their work and perspective and let you start kind of thinking outside of the box for Mendix.
Yeah, it's amazing the use cases that people bring to that conference. Rashika, I'll ask you then, but you got a chance to go around and meet a lot of different people. The show floor was pretty fascinating as well. What was the most interesting technical thing that you saw while we were on site there in Detroit?
Honestly, for me, it was Graph Studio. So the reason I liked it was not really about the Graph Studio itself. I liked the idea behind it. One thing that came up in a few sessions was how AI needs context to make good decisions, because no matter how powerful your AI agent is, no matter how much time you invested yourself to train your model, if you don't provide a context to your AI agent, it's not going to provide you with a better solution to your business problem. So there was a session where they talked about an organization using drones to monitor remote border regions. So if one of those drones fails, it's not just a hardware issue for them. So you suddenly lose visibility in that particular area, and replacing or repairing drone was just taking about 6 weeks for them. So they introduced an AI agent. They integrated with Graph Studio in the backend, where Graph Studio had all their information and context about their organization, data they were using. And if I go into that AI agent and provide it with a business problem we are trying to solve, it immediately gave us the best solution and changing pairing time of that drone from 6 weeks to just 2 days. So it was really interesting because they were just using the most powerful tools. The reason I say it's most powerful because Graph database is one of the powerful databases that exist till date. So if you use a traditional database like a linear database, you just have to go node by node to fetch data. But if it's graph database, you already have a relationship. So they just use the powerful tools like Graph Studio and AI Agent to solve their business problem. So that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I think where RapidMiner, the entire suite of products is going to be taking AI for companies is really interesting. Another area with AI that not just at the show, but we've heard a lot about, Josh, is AI assisted development. So not just vibe coding, but actually when working with the development process in Mendix, how can we speed up the development in a more maybe articulate, elegant way than just throw on some business requirements into Claude or something like that. What did you think coming out of the show about AI-assisted development and where that's actually going when it comes to the Siemens products?
Yeah, I was, for the most part, very impressed. Siemens made no secret that their number 1 and 2 priorities right now are helping their clients manage data better than helping utilize like AI in the development cycle. One of the biggest things that they're working on adding is ramping up like the capabilities of Maya and separating it into Maya Plan and Maya Make. Maya Plan is for creating an idea as to what task needs to be done, and Maya Make's the one that actually executes it. So I think those are going to be really helpful. If you were to just vibe code stuff like you're describing like from scratch, you have to figure out like the guardrails question to where in the data can the agent have access to. Since everything for development with Mendix has to go through a like Mendix MCP, it basically provides like a layer of security that's like a guaranteed security that you can achieve like in other kinds of tech stacks, but it's definitely like a more difficult process, and then there's not so much there. So anyways, all that being said, being able to start using Maya Plan and Make and being able to have a better guarantee of the speed that an agentic development workflow gives you, with also just like a lot more of the safety that working inside of Mendix provides. I think that stuff is really exciting as a developer.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job of showing off the capabilities of the AI assisted development, but then as well, the guardrails that are in place there with a full stack tool like Mendix, where it can handle everything and not just an API connection in the front end. It can really handle a lot more of the full stack security and load balancing, everything that comes with that. So I thought that was really cool as well. Rashika and Kendall, as more of our senior Mendix developers, you're on the platform daily. Anything at the conference change how you're thinking about how you build apps, the architecture of government, what you'll do to deliver with clients moving forward?
One thing that conference made me think about is architecture for sure, because as developers, we are usually focused on the problem in front of us. So somebody gives us a requirement every day, we build it, test it, deploy it, and then move on to the next thing. But a lot of sessions I attended were not really about solving just one requirement. Usually the goal is just to get a specific process working, but they would just build on top of everything that they're trying to solve today. But what the conference made me think about is what happened 6 months later. So, for example, if I'm working on an integration problem right now to integrate an SAP process, for sure they would come back in 6 months and then they would just need a different workflow with the same integration. So now I'm not just thinking about how to make something work today. I'm thinking more about how I structure it so that even if I'm not on that same project 6 months later, if I got rolled over to a different project or a different developer is working on the same integration that I did, I or a different developer should be building on top of what we already have instead of redesigning everything and starting over. So I think that's probably what my thinking changed a little. So the requirement we have today is obviously so important, but good architecture is also should be there because we should be making sure the next requirement is easier to build than the first one instead of reinventing the wheel every single time they come with a new requirement.
I have to agree with that. My answer is very similar. I mean, several of the sessions really highlighted how the most successful teams are, accelerating their delivery by just building reusable assets, building things that, kind of like Rashika was saying, that you can build on top of or, reuse in other areas. So it just really highlighted the fact that I don't always have to start from scratch. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. That's what Mendix is made for. But yeah, as developers, it's really easy to just be like, oh, I have this requirement. Let me create something to solve that really quick, instead of looking back at, at our library, either with that client or maybe that we've used previously with another client that we can, pull in a module, pull in, even just smaller pieces that we can just reuse that already, serve that purpose, and really cut development time down even more and save us a lot of hassle later.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about that too is that once clients start to get engaged with actual development, they can keep, you think about project-based work traditionally where it's, hey, you do that for this next 2 weeks, and when the projects slow down, there's not a lot of work to do. With Mendix, you can just continually develop, and iterate inside the platform and make it reusable across your entire portfolio. So I think that's really cool. So Josh, then from your side, you've been on AI Studio now for a while. Any sessions, any talking points that move the needle with you? I know you've been focused a lot on the ETL side. Any other areas that you saw on the platform that you thought, man, that's really cool? Any presentations that were memorable to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when AI Studio was acquired from Siemens in October, they pumped out a ton of updates in those 3 to 4 months. And so there isn't a ton new stuff they're adding on the functionality side of AI Studio. The biggest thing is their announcement of Intelligent Center X, that Mendix and Graph Studio and AI Studio are going to be bundled together. So you can take, all of the power for data analytics and predictive analysis and that kind of stuff that AI Studio gives you. And now we can a lot quicker and easier be able to develop Mendix app front ends for helping our clients be able to see those data and stuff like that. So it's definitely the biggest takeaway is all of the stuff that we had on Intelligent Center X.
Yeah, I think we're going to loop back to that here in just a minute, but I think the announcement they made with the back end and front end, with, if you think of Mendix and then a data product, we'll kind of close with some thoughts on that, but it's pretty exciting. Kendall, you've been working now with pre-sales, going through certification process and some other things. Was there something cool that you saw? I always enjoy hearing all the different stories, whether you hear it from somebody technical or somebody on the business side. Any stories, case studies, anything like that you thought, wow, that really kind of blows my mind with how they used Mendix or how they presented it?
I have to say, from a pre-sales perspective, I've seen a lot about what Mendix can do. I've seen a lot of, case studies about, this company uses it in this way to achieve this goal, and here's this cool thing. At Realize Live, this was the first time that I got to hear the customer's story from the customer talking about their experience with Mendix. Even in pre-sales, I might be there for some of those conversations that include us when they're asking questions about Mendix, but I'm not there behind closed doors when they're actually making decisions. I'm not there with them every day when they're using the app when they're done. So from that perspective, getting to hear, the customers talk about their story was incredible. And I think the most notable one was the one who was talking about a project that I had worked on myself. I work with them side by side throughout the entire process, but this is more. I got to hear firsthand everything that came before development started, what made them decide to go with a low-code solution at all, why they chose Mendix, how their users feel about the app now, what post-launch has been like for them, how their use of this app has inspired new ideas for new, solutions. These are the parts that you just don't get to see as a developer. And, I can take that knowledge with me now and really apply it to my future pre-sales discussions. I can say those things from experience rather than what I think somebody might, think about the product. Now, on the product side, the AI piece obviously is huge. Clients are always asking about how AI can fit into their processes. And so I did leave with, a few new examples and demonstrations that help kind of connect those conversations. One that we're already planning to put into our demo app using AI. And so lots of ideas there. And then once again, from that pre-sales perspective, I think something that was kind of cool to analyze kind of from the outside in was looking at which sessions drew the most attention and kind of learning from them how their value proposition worked before someone really even knew what kind of session they were sitting down, what made them walk over, what made them decide to go to that session instead of the one next door. And then also taking that and thinking about the line between showing someone something cool versus showing them something they can use. I learned there's a really big difference there. So if you're not getting someone to start thinking about how they can actually apply your product to their own business goals, then all you did was just entertain them for a little bit. So I did see some examples of entertainment, and I did see some examples of value that really got me thinking. And it's the ones that got me thinking that will stick with me for a long time.
Oh, for sure. And there's such a wide breadth of use cases for what can be used there. I mean, we saw rocket engine parts and everything else, shop floor or warehouse floor automation and everything. And then there are other people that just say, man, that stuff's really cool, but that's not applicable to me, and I can't really learn anything standing here. It's crazy how much Siemens actually covers. I guess I'll ask Ishi this one thing here. What was something that you took away that you would say, hey, at the next project I was on, boy, I'd really like to do something differently based upon my experience here? What's something you learned with? Josh, we'll start with you. But what's something that you took away and say, I can't wait to do this or make this recommendation or show this to a client?
The biggest one for me is just, I think, like really repetitive tasks in Mendix that used to take us a lot longer don't have to take us that long. Like once we do a task a few times, I think we already have the capabilities to use agentic work to be able to repeat those kind of things and cut the time to delivery down by a lot.
Yep, no, that's great.
Maybe I would spend a little more time experimenting with new capabilities before I actually need them on a project. As a developer, we are usually get busy with whatever we are building in that moment. So if our client needs an integration, we are focused on integration. If they need a workflow, we are focused on that workflow. What I noticed at the conference is that a lot of really interesting solutions didn't happen because somebody just got a requirement on Monday and they built it on Tuesday. So those teams had already spent time learning that technology, trying things out, and understanding what was possible before the business even asked for it. So a simple example for me would be something like a Graph Studio or some of the AI capabilities. So maybe I don't have a project that needs it today, but if I spend some time understanding it now, then when a client comes to us 6 months from now with a problem, I already have an idea where it might fit.
I basically want to build habits and then be ready to break them. Because one thing that I have learned is you learn the Mendix platform, you learn a way to do something, but maybe you learn it early on, and then that becomes your method of doing that thing. And so in your mind, you think, I know how to do that. And so you just do it the same way each time. And that works, but you may not realize that with Mendix 11 coming out, it has this, this new feature and this new feature, and it can do this. And the example that I recently had was discovering that you can have the system, even without using Maya, you can just have the system build you a validation microflow. You don't have to build that yourself. You can right click, click a button that says, generate the validation, then tweak it from there as needed. And that's one of those things where I've just always created my validation flows. I do it the same way. They look the same each time. And, you're just using different attributes. And here's this function out of nowhere for me that was like, oh, this will do it for me. So getting to see some of those examples at the conference itself, and then taking with me the idea of continually looking out for those things and making sure that I'm staying informed about those things, and that can help make my job easier and help me deliver faster.
Awesome. So wrap it up with this one here real quick. Josh, you kind of touched on it earlier with Intelligence Center X and where the traditional, what our clients might think of with Mendix, is now augmented by the Rapid Miner suite. That covers everything from data collection, modeling, data visualization. What I'm telling people a lot is that if you were to think of Mendix as the sports car, Mendix had some really good integration capabilities as an engine, but for large data products, we really had to look elsewhere to augment Mendix for delivery. Now having that RapidMiner suite of capabilities built into Mendix, we can really build and do just about anything in the world utilizing low code. So from a big picture, obviously that's exciting. But each of you guys work on very different use cases, both currently as well as in your past, and you bring very different perspectives from prior lives to Titan and into the delivery process. So how does this evolution of Mendix and the platform itself apply to projects you're working on now and some of the business cases that you may have worked on in the past?
I can see how some of them could apply to some of the, things I've worked on in the past. Like you said, every customer is different, and especially a lot of people are stepping into Mendix for the very first time. And so a lot of, what they're doing, they're not going big right away, right? They're just turning Excel spreadsheets into an application. So a lot of my hands-on experience with clients is not utilizing what I know can be utilized. So what I'm doing is, as I'm going through the apps that I am working on, is brainstorming, what a next step could be, so that I can start kind of presenting some of these as ideas, whether they're in stand-ups or, anything else. Just say, hey, would this be something that would be worth doing a phase 2? Hey, have you thought about, adding this to make this process easier? Or starting to kind of ask those questions and get them thinking about the next steps. And then in the meantime, educating myself continually about how to implement those next steps.
For the most part, for companies who have been interested in Mendix in the past and have applications, I think for just a lot of the really data intensive stuff, Mendix has had a bit of a weakness on it. For like use cases, something that gets thrown around a lot with AI Studio is sales quoting like use cases, or predicting faults in like plants and that kind of stuff. We just have a lot more like needs that we can meet for companies now, and it gives us like a huge advantage. There's an example of a company who manufactured glass, and they said they have around 35 Mendix apps running right now. Obviously, Joseph, examples, I'm sure, where companies have much more than that. And I think being able to meet all of the different needs a lot better that require like data intensive solutions gives us the ability to move to the second app or the third app and be able to meet more use cases for companies.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for the time today. I think this perspective on the ability to interact with peers, other clients that have real world experience was exciting. So if anybody is listening to this and is interested about Realize Live and learning more about the Siemens suite of products, there's plenty of opportunity to do so. Before next year in Detroit, we'd love to chat with you. Thank you, everyone, for listening.